I'm Dr. Samuel Acuff, a research scientist in the Recovery Research Institute in the Department of Psychiatry at Massachusetts General Hospital. I'm here talking with Dr. John Kelly, who is the founder and director of the Recovery Research Institute and a professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. How's it going, Dr. Kelly?
Good to see you.
Good. I want to talk to you about one specific element of the Recovery Research Institute, or what can be found on the recoveryanswers.org website, called the Addictionary. Tell me what the Addictionary is.
Yeah, the Addictionary, beyond being a clever play on words, I hope.
Very clever.
It is really a glossary of terminology of the terms that one might encounter if you're working in the field or interested in this topic of addiction, broadly speaking. When I say addiction, I mean anything really to do with psychoactive substance use and substance use disorders, as well as other behavioral disorders, so gambling addiction and other kinds of behavioral addictions as well. It was designed really to try and create a unified language. I think if we want addiction to be destigmatized, we need a language that's unified and that really reflects the latest knowledge and what we've learned about addiction and substance use disorders in the last 50 years, which is a lot. We've learned a lot about it. And as you know, there's just a ton of words used in loose ways, in broad ways, in non-specific ways, which can create confusion. This is very important in a very stigmatized condition like addiction and substance use disorder. So to be able to clarify and reach consensus on terminology, I think has been very important for the field, and that's what the Addictionary tries to do.
Yeah, it sounds like reduce stigma, or to use the language that's most up to date, but also to get people on the same page when we're trying to study phenomena that are related to addiction.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's two major goals of it, and that is precision. So the precision of our language. So are we using the same terms, meaning the same thing? In the field, you know, we've been guilty, I think, in our field that there's use of the same terminology to mean different things, and that only creates more confusion. So that element of precision and all being on the same page in terms of the language that we use and meaning the same thing. And as you said, the word stigma, very important in terms of not using language that we've now found to be stigmatizing, to induce implicit or explicit biases, even unconsciously, so people don't even know when they hear certain terms. And even when we don't mean anything by it, we understand now that certain terms can actually induce these biases. And that's the last thing we need when we're already facing a lot of stigma and discrimination, people who suffer from these disorders and their families. So wherever we can, we want to make inroads in reducing stigma and discrimination. And one way to do that is to make sure that we're not using language which we know and have found out is discriminating and stigmatizing.
Yeah, a phrase I've heard you use before is words matter. And I think that's particularly true for an area like stigma related to substance use. So who would be the intended audience? Like who do you hope to be accessing the Addictionary?
Well, I think, you know, everybody who really the general public, as well as, very importantly, the media. So the media is really how we get a lot of our concepts, is through the things we read in newspapers or online, on the radio and TV. So the Associated Press, for example, has been instrumental in changing their language as a result, for example, of the Addictionary and what's been formulated in the Addictionary, because that has helped the Associated Press emphasize recommended language and emphasize language not to use. And that was updated in 2015 as a result of a lot of research that had been done in this area in more recent years. So that's been very important. So the Associated Press can use that, has been using the Addictionary. But for example, Google links to the Addictionary in Recovery Month. So every Recovery Month, which is in September every year, if you go to the Google bar, you'll see the link to the Addictionary at recoveryanswers.org. as well as other major organizations. For example, in criminal justice, the American Bar Association links to the Addictionary to help attorneys and the criminal justice system utilize language which we know is non-stigmatizing and precise.
Yeah.
So all of these entities have benefited, I think, from the Addictionary, as well as the general public. Students writing essays in school, college students, medical students, social work students, nursing students, all these students who are wanting to understand what's the correct term to use here, or the consensus here in terms of the terminology to use, to be able to look that up and say, is this the right term? Is it stigmatizing? Is it found to be stigmatizing in research? And again, you have to be careful that we kind of ideally reach consensus for a reason, so that, and where there is justification for the change, not just otherwise. I think that you could be accused of being just using language that's kind of politically correct with no basis.
Right.
But there is a strong basis for the Addictionary and the terms that are used in it.
Because of the impact it can have on,
exactly,
yeah. And the Addictionary sounds like it's having global impact, impacting journalism, the field of law, and is accessible every year across Google, which is probably the most widely used search platform. So, where could someone go if they want to go take a look at the Addictionary?
So you can access it through recoveryanswers.org. That's the URL, the website for our Recovery Research Institute. When you go to that website, you'll see one of the bars at the top, one of the labels at the top of the website is the Addictionary. So if you just click on that, and you can search those different terms and view all the terminology there.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.